Whew. I guess I might as well continue the series September outside. Let's continue Harry's journey. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire was published July 8th, 2000. It is the fourth book in the series. We have reached the halfway point. This is where things are going to get even more crazy. Buckle up. But before we get into this, I have a funny story for you. I was 9 years old when I read this book. I had just finished reading Prisoner of Azkaban and didn't want to wait until I was 10 to read Goblet of Fire. So I took it off the bookshelf and read it myself. I wasn't stopped. I still did enjoy the book, but I think maybe I should have waited since there was a lot I didn't quite understand. Now, the story technically begins elsewhere, but we're going to come back to that later down the line. I figured it'd be more convenient for us to get the main plot and then explain what the heck has been going on right at the moment. This is how the reviews for the rest of the series are going to be as well. Okay, so, it's once again summer with the Dursleys. Harry is still not having a good time living there, but at least his relatives fear Sirius checking in. Now, the Weasleys have invited Harry to come with them to the Quidditch World Cup. Vernon reluctantly allows Harry to go, since it means Harry will leave 2 weeks before school begins. Arthur, the twins, and Ron pop out of the Dursleys' fireplace to pick up Harry and head off, but not before Fred and George leave behind a candy that they've invented to screw over Dudley. You see, Fred and George want to run their own joke shop. Right here, I'd like to mention that this is the first time that Harry officially meets Ron's two older brothers, Charlie and Bill. They're coming to the Quidditch World Cup too. Molly has to stay home, though. Oh yeah, Hermione's coming too. So, everyone who doesn't want to apparate goes to a hill nearby the village to take a portkey. A portkey is basically a regular object that can teleport people to a specific place. It's usually disguised as litter. In this case, it's an old boot. Anyways, Harry, Hermione, some of the Weasleys, and Amos Diggory with his son Cedric take the portkey to the area where the Quidditch World Cup is taking place. Now, we've actually met Cedric before in the third book, since he's the Hufflepuff Seeker. We're going to be seeing a lot more of him in this story. Harry, Hermione, and the Weasleys set up a tent since the match could last days, and now it's finally time for the game. While in the top box seats, Harry meets a house elf named Winky. This is also where Hermione learns about house elves and what they do. We'll come back to that in a few minutes. Anyways, the Quidditch match was a good time, but the good times do not last long since Death Eaters have made an appearance and have started to bewitch the Muggles who are running the campgrounds. To make matters worse, someone has cast a dark mark in the sky. Now, the dark mark is Voldemort's symbol, and it only appears over areas where Death Eaters have committed murder. Ministry of Magic agents are everywhere looking around for who cast it, and Mr. Crouch immediately blames Harry, Ron, and Hermione, who were near the person who cast it. Now, they didn't see who cast it, but they were close. Naturally, Harry and friends were discovered to not have cast it. Instead, the blame is turned to Winky, who was caught with Harry's wand. Mr. Crouch fires Winky. Well, it's time to go back to school now. Two important things have happened. Number one being that the kids now have a new defense against the dark arts teacher, Alistair Moody. And number two being that after much consideration, Hogwarts has decided to host an event called the Tri-Wizard Tournament. Two other magical schools will be coming to stay at Hogwarts for the year, and a champion will be picked to represent each of the schools. Then they must all compete in 3 dangerous tasks. However, they won't be as dangerous, as the teachers will make sure all 3 champions come out alive. The 2 other magical schools coming to join Hogwarts are Beauxbatons and Durmstrang. There is also an age limit as to who can participate in the tournament. The students must be 17 or older to participate. Now, before the 2 other magical schools arrive, let's go over what the kids learn in Defense Against the Dark Arts. Moody teaches them about the 3 unforgivable curses: the Imperius Curse, the Cruciatus Curse, and the Killing Curse. This is where we learn how Harry's parents had been killed. It was with the Killing Curse. There is no counter-curse to the Killing Curse, and the only known survivor is Harry himself. Well, let's welcome the other 2 schools to Hogwarts. The students from each of the schools put their names in the Goblet of Fire. Fred and George try to slip in their names as well via an aging potion, but are unable to because of the age line. The day eventually comes for the champions to be chosen. Representing Beauxbatons is Fleur Delacour, representing Durmstrang is Victor Crumb, and finally, representing Hogwarts is Cedric Diggory. Well, that takes care of that, but what's this? A 4th name appears out of the Goblet of Fire containing 1 name. Harry Potter. Now, Harry is adamant that he didn't put his name in the Goblet of Fire, and Dumbledore believes him. It's a shame everyone else doesn't, though. So Harry couldn't even put his name in since he's 14. So that means someone else had to do it for him. Now, they can't remove Harry from the tournament since it's a magical binding contract, so there's no choice but to let him participate. After all these shenanigans that just happened, Ron has finally had enough of being thrown under the bus so that he stops talking to Harry. You see, Ron also doesn't believe Harry when he says he didn't put his name in the Goblet of Fire. There's nothing Harry can do but wait. However, he does write a letter to Sirius and informs him of what's going on. You see, Sirius has been keeping steady contact with Harry and remains hidden. Actually, heck, waiting isn't helping anything since Harry now has to deal with a persistent journalist named Rita Skeeter. She's been doing everything in her power to tear Harry down and make him look bad. It's what she does. To make things worse, people actually believe some of her articles. She's actually forbidden from the school grounds, yet for some reason she seems to know what's going on. Well, Hagrid manages to let Harry know that the first task in the Triwizard Tournament is going to do with dragons. Now, Harry also lets Cedric know about the dragons as well, since it's clear that the other champions are going to be informed as well through other means. Harry does try to get some advice from Sirius through talking to him via Fireplace, but Ron interrupts him before Sirius can provide help. Harry and Ron still aren't on speaking terms, and this just makes Harry more mad at him. The day has arrived, and each champion has to get a golden egg from the dragons. That is the task. Now before this, Moody actually hinted to Harry that he could get through this task through help of the summoning charm. Hermione helps Harry master the summoning charm, and Harry uses it during the task to summon his broom, and he ends up grabbing the golden egg in time. After seeing Harry risk his life like that, Ron actually starts to believe Harry now, and the two are best friends again. Now, a couple of other things happen before Harry can start the second task. One being that Hermione has been trying to start a movement to get the house elves more rights, like pay and vacation time. She ends up finding the kitchens where the house elves work at Hogwarts, and brings Harry and Ron to see them. There we see that Dobby is among them, Winky as well, though she's still unhappy about being fired. Dobby is actually the only elf receiving some kind of pay since he asked for it. Just a little note I thought I'd slip in there. Anyways, the other thing that happens is the Yule Ball. It's a formal occasion and part of the Triwizard Tournament. It's a dance that will allow everyone to get to know each other better. Well, Harry takes too long to pull himself together and ask Cho Chang to the ball. She's already going with Cedric, who Harry now starts to dislike. Harry ends up asking Parvati Patil, and Ron goes with Parvati's sister, Padma. Harry and Ron don't have a good time at the dance, but Hermione sure does. Apparently Victor Crumb was the one who asked her. Harry and Ron end up leaving the dance early and are just outside the castle hanging out. This is where we find out that Hagrid is half giant, which somehow makes it into the Daily Prophet the next day. How very strange. After Harry and friends reassure Hagrid that they still like him despite all that, the time grows closer and closer to the second task. After a hint from Cedric, Harry decides to try opening the golden egg in the water, where he finds out that mer people live in the lake. Now, Harry can't swim, nor does he know any spells to help him breathe underwater. He spends the entire time looking up what to do, but ends up finding it at the last possible minute thanks to Dobby. Dobby gives Harry gillyweed, which will allow him to breathe underwater. Now, the mer people have taken Ron, Hermione, Cho, and Fleur's sister Gabrielle hostage. The champions have to rescue them within an hour. Oh, don't worry, they won't die, but Harry doesn't know that. He ends up being the first to get there, but he waits to make sure that all the hostages are safe. Fleur was attacked by Grindylows and had to be taken out of the lake, so Harry saves Ron and Gabrielle, and Fleur is most grateful. Only one more task left. Sirius has actually come back to the area and is staying in a cave near Hogsmeade. He continues to help and support Harry from there. Also, something strange just happened. Over the course of the story, around the time of the Yule Ball, Mr. Crouch, one of the judges for the Triwizard Tournament, had disappeared. Well, he shows up again after the champions are shown the maze that they have to get through for the third task. Mr. Crouch has gone mad. Harry leaves Victor to watch over him while he goes to get Dumbledore, but when they get back, Victor was knocked out and Mr. Crouch was gone. Now let's get to those dreams that Harry's been having. You see, he's been dreaming about Voldemort and Wormtail. That's actually where the story begins. Voldemort has been hiding out in his father's old home and has been plotting with Wormtail on how to come back. And Harry's scar has been hurting pretty badly every time he had these nightmares about Voldemort. Well, the most recent one happened when he fell asleep during his divination class, and he went straight to Dumbledore because that's what Sirius told him to do if it happened again. However, it seems Dumbledore has some important matters to attend to, so Harry just hangs out in his office for a bit and accidentally finds Dumbledore's pensieve, a device that contains all of Dumbledore's memories. The few that Harry run into are about the trials that Mr. Crouch ran when they were finding out about Death Eaters. One such Death Eater was Mr. Crouch's son, who died in Azkaban years ago. Well, Dumbledore pulls Harry out of his memories, and Harry tells Dumbledore about his concerns, but there's not much they can do right now other than continue with the third task. Harry makes it through the maze and saves Cedric's life a couple of times in the process, although Harry currently has an injured leg from a giant spider attack. Well, both Harry and Cedric are at the center of the maze now, and they decide to grab the Triwizard Cup together. I wish I could say this was the end, but it isn't. The Triwizard Cup was turned into a portkey that took Harry to the graveyard near the village where Voldemort's father was buried. Wormtail and Voldemort are there to greet them. Cedric is then killed by Voldemort. Harry is bound to a headstone and can only watch as Voldemort is reborn with a few ingredients that include Harry's blood. Now that Voldemort is reborn, the remaining Death Eaters appear, and Voldemort decides to toy with Harry before killing him. They duel, but when their spells collide, the spells rebound. The ghosts of Voldemort's past victims appear, including Harry's parents. Cedric's last words to Harry are to get his body back to his family. Harry does just that as soon as he breaks the connection and escapes back to Hogwarts with the portkey and Cedric's body. Well, after all that happens, it's revealed that Professor Moody is not who he says he is. He is actually Barty Crouch Jr. It seems he had a little help escaping Azkaban years ago, and finally found his chance to help revive his master by putting Harry's name in the Goblet of Fire, and helping him get the Triwizard Cup portkey so that he will be at that graveyard in that moment. Pretty elaborate plan if you ask me. So now we have two people confirming that Voldemort has in fact returned. However, when Fudge goes to see Barty Crouch Jr., he brings a Dementor with him. The Dementor performs the fatal Dementor's kiss on Barty Crouch Jr., thus leaving him completely soulless, basically dead. Well, that just throws everything off. It also doesn't help that Fudge kind of believes the lies that Rita Skeeter has been spouting and thinks Harry mentally unstable. Harry does get his winnings for winning the Triwizard Tournament. Now, the students don't know how Cedric really died, and theories are going around. It doesn't help that the Ministry isn't admitting the truth despite Dumbledore's warnings. Luckily, Dumbledore has a plan of his own. He reveals Sirius's presence to those whom he knows he can trust, and they all get to work. And while Dumbledore does announce to the school that Cedric was killed by Voldemort, well, we'll get back to that in the next review. Anyways, it's time for everyone to go home, but before they all leave, two things happen. Rita Skeeter is discovered to be an unregistered animagus. She can turn into a beetle. That's how she was able to get onto the school grounds. Hermione actually catches Rita in beetle form and keeps her in a jar, intending to reveal to the world what she is if she continues to spout lies. And the other thing that happens is Harry gives his Triwizard winnings to Fred and George, since they lost all their money to Bagman betting all their money on the Quidditch World Cup. Harry insists they start their joke shop, since the world may be needing a lot more laughter here soon. Well, things are about to heat up here. Let's analyze. Now, this is going to be more about little details we learn about the world, since I find that to be the most fascinating. Okay, I'm going to cover overall series foreshadowing in the series analysis, but I want to quickly go over the massive amounts of foreshadowing in this book specifically. There's a lot. Two people are trying to help Harry win the tournament. Ludo Bagman and Barty Crouch Jr. disguised as Professor Moody. Crouch does most of the work without trying to raise suspicion. It's actually really funny when he reveals the whole plan to Harry, because he mentions how he gave Neville the exact book that Harry needed to learn how to breathe underwater, but Harry never bothered to ask Neville for it and find it himself. I don't know, I'm just picturing him watching this whole thing play out and get really mad at Harry's stubbornness to find out for himself. Well, the plan succeeded anyway, but it took a little more effort. It's interesting to look back at scenes in the book after reading it and noticing the little details of Crouch going through with the plan. Alright, I know I didn't talk much about Hermione's plot to free the house elves. While it's not that important to the overall story, it does say a lot about Hermione's character. Also, it was interesting to take a look at how house elves are characterized. They like the work they do, and they don't care if they don't get paid as long as the work gets done. Dobby is even hesitant when asking for payment, since Dumbledore actually offered him a lot more than he wanted. Now, this is also where we get a good idea of what it was like when Voldemort was in power. You see, Voldemort and the Death Eaters would bewitch, curse, and kill Muggles for sport, since they believed that being a pure-blooded wizard was superior. We've already seen that there are some wizards who definitely feel that way. It gives the reader a good idea of what's going to happen next once Voldemort fully rises to power. Speaking of pure-blooded wizards, there's a scene near the end where Fudge almost admits that he cares more about the blood purity of wizards. Dumbledore calls that out and points out that Barty Crouch Jr., a pureblood, went out of his way to do the things he did by his own choice. What matters is not what you are, but who you choose to become. Rita Skeeter is the worst. This is just how I feel, but I feel like she's a representation of what journalism can be. She exaggerates and twists words to make people look bad. You see, she tries her best to interview Harry and paint him in the worst light possible. She does this with the Ministry of Magic as well. That's why she has to disguise herself as a bug so she can learn details without being noticed. It's really horrifying to think about. While Professor Moody was not who he said he was actually a pretty good teacher. He thought it best to actually show the kids what the unforgivable curses were, and what they did, so they knew how to defend themselves. And they are going to have to know how to defend themselves properly now, especially since Voldemort is back. Overall, I had so much fun reading this again. It's very entertaining and explains a lot about the wizarding world. The book is a bit long, though. While the print is pretty big compared to other longer books of this variety, it still might be a bit to get through. The build up to the ending is honestly one of the best in my opinion, and when everything ties up together, it's very satisfying. I'd recommend this book for ages 10 and up. Due to the length and a lot of details about the wizarding world, it might be a bit difficult to grasp for young readers. Now, the movie actually took a lot more liberties as well. A few examples include the absence of Dobby and Winky, along with the house elves in the kitchen, the scene with the Dursleys when Dudley tries Fred and George's candy, Ron explaining that Harry shouldn't have believed that the hostages would die, how Barty Crouch Jr. escaped from Azkaban, this...
Harry! I protest! Harry, you put your name in the Goblet of Fire.
No, sir.
You asked one of the older students to do it for you?
No, sir.
And a lot more. Now, I have said this before, but there are some things that work better written on the page rather than on the screen. I think reading through the book again confirms that. However, I will say that the movie does seem to be built with the mindset that the audience has already read the book, since not a lot is explained. The books are only going to get longer from here on, so be prepared. Tune in on Wednesday for Harry's 5th year at school. Happy reading!